Got your pencil right there. Okay.
Detective Stoddard, would you mind stepping back down here so we can complete our review of this video, please? And again, before the break, what we were looking at is the parking lot video of the Home Depot Treehouse at 2600, and this is the morning of June the 18th, 2014. We initially looked at one lady walked by the car at about roughly 9:30, 9:31.
Yes, sir.
Want to now draw your attention to the same area. This is Ross's car right here, right?
That's correct.
Right. I want to draw your attention to that area and be looking at roughly after 9:34, right at about 9:34:14. See somebody approaching the back of the car from the right?
Yes, right by the tree.
Huh? That person's just walking right behind you.
Correct.
Okay. And into their car.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. If you would go to 9:39, please. I'm going to call your attention to the same area at 9:39 and 20 seconds. See the person approaching from the right behind the car?
Yes, sir.
Does that appear to be the same person, or can you tell?
I can't tell.
Can't tell? They walk right behind the car. See that?
I do.
All right, thank you. If you would go to 9:44, roughly 9:44:30, get close to that. Did you become aware that people actually use this parking lot to walk laps for
Yes.
exercise during the day? And we see some of that in the video. All right, look at 9:44 and 45 seconds coming up. I'll direct your attention to the driver's side of the car. See a lady approaching from the right, or a man approaching from the right,
From the left.
excuse me, from the left. It stopped right there. All right. This person right there, he walked right by the back of the car and then right past the driver's side door.
He did.
Okay, everybody see that? Okay. If you one did, go to 10:08 and 40 seconds. Detective, on this one, I'm gonna ask you to draw your attention to the back or rear part of the vehicle, please. You see a man approaching from the left?
That appears to be.
See him stop right there at the rear quarter panel?
I do.
You agree he's within feet of the car?
I agree.
He's literally just standing right behind the car.
Yes, sir.
He walks, stands right behind the rear of the car, back for several seconds, and then he walks on. Had you seen that video before?
Yes.
That footage? Okay.
Okay.
10, 21, 20 seconds, please. Back that up just a little bit. Give me just a moment. I'm going to call your attention to roughly 10, 21, 20. And the time I'm given, Detective, you understand this to be Eastern Standard Time, which is it's that morning. Okay?
Yes.
All right, if you see there is a person approaching from the left.
Yes, sir.
You agree walks right behind the car.
I would.
What's this fellow appear to be doing right there while he's looking down walking?
Fine.
Look kind of like he's looking at his phone.
It could be.
All right. Go to 11:06:42, please. All right. You'll see there's a person approaching from the right-hand side of the screen.
Yes, sir.
And again, walks past the area behind the truck. Fair to say?
Yes.
If you would go to 11:17:35, please. I'm going to draw your attention to the area of the truck by the driver's side door. Right, you see a person coming into the screen from the right-hand side?
I do.
And we just saw that person walk right by the driver's side of Russ's car, didn't we?
We did.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
11:24:30. see two people on the right-hand side,
Left-hand side.
excuse me, left-hand side. You agree, both of those individuals walked right by the driver's side across the street.
I agree.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. I think that's all I'm gonna show right now. Detective, would you mind taking a seat again, please? Detective Stoddard, you previously testified before the break that you made some effort to identify an individual that we saw in that video.
Yeah. Several of the individuals we attempted to identify.
Which several?
Just several. I don't have the exact ones, but I contacted Home Depot store. I'm sorry. I contacted Home Depot and said we want to identify one of the people walking by the car, and they aren't able to help me with that.
All right. The parking lot that we just saw where, saw the video footage of at the Treehouse. Isn't it true that that's a dedicated parking lot just for the Home Depot business there?
No,
Okay, what else is there?
there's another business next door to it.
Or what is the name of it?
I don't know.
Okay.
But it's a different name. I think Home Depot may have some offices in there, but I think someone else has offices in there too. But it's in the next building, and they don't have a badge in, badge out.
What's the name of that business?
I don't know.
When you checked with Home Depot, and we know the Treehouse has badge in and badge out, correct?
It is.
Okay. So if it was any Home Depot employee that would have been coming into the building,
Mhm.
we've got they're walking through the parking lot.
Yep.
And we see some of them are actually headed out of screen, but toward the buildings, correct?
That's correct.
So we know what time they would, roughly, what time they'd be going in.
Agreed.
Did you give those specific times to anybody at Home Depot to try to find out who it was that badged in during those times?
Yes.
Okay.
I spoke with Home Depot. I spoke with, I believe it was Jeff Parton and Greg Sanders. Mostly Greg Sanders, who we've already met. And asked them, we needed some help identifying some of the people walking through the parking lot. Most of the people were walking up the hill, and then the others he was unable to help me with.
Okay. And can you tell me what page of your report describes what you just testified?
It's not in my report.
You didn't report that communication with Home Depot asking for assistance to find out who it was that badged in that coming through the parking lot?
No. I don't put every little thing into my report.
Okay. All right. If they were unable to assist you and tell you who was badging in at those specific times that we see, did you go to the business next door and meet with them about identifying who their employees were that may have been coming in or out that morning?
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the business. I don't think, when I remember talking to them, I know Home Depot has an office or two in there. A part of the building, well, they're unsure what part of the building they were going to, and I don't believe there was video surveillance in the lobby either. But no, did I contact anybody at that specific business?
You would agree, certainly wouldn't have been that hard to do.
No.
Okay. And the thing about having a video of the parking lot, we've got different cameras. A lot of these folks, we can actually see what car they were coming in or out of, right?
That's true.
And it really wouldn't have been that hard to go to that business and say, hey, have you got somebody that drives a Celica that came in roughly this time, man or woman? It wouldn't have been that tough.
That's a little too broad.
Okay.
But way too broad to try and to identify somebody. We found out there's no video in the lobby. I believe there was no video in that lobby. And because most of the people were walking up the hill towards that, you see them keep walking, they're going up to that next building. I don't believe there's video, and I don't believe there's like a badging around. There wasn't a station like there is in the Home Depot Treehouse.
Okay. And is that the extent of what you did to try to determine who those individuals were that we just saw in the
Yes.
parking lot video?
That's correct.
agree that it's fair to say at least a few of those people that we saw in the video that morning, well before the lunch hour, walked in very close proximity, almost right up against Ross's car.
Yes.
We see one that stands for several seconds at the back of the car.
Yes, sir.
And you would agree those people just might have been in a position to hear something coming from the car, if there had been any noise coming from the car.
I think that calls for too much speculation. With the car being completely closed, I don't know what they could have heard coming out of that car.
Okay. Well, what about the guy standing directly behind the car with nothing but the windshield between he and the inside of the car?
I don't know if he had a hearing disability. I don't know if he was concentrating on something else. I can't speculate, I'm sorry.
And if we located him at the Home Depot or the neighboring business, we could have found out.
If, what, he heard anything?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would hope he would have come forward
Mm-hmm.
with all the publicity and all the security and the multiple times we were at Home Depot. That he would have come forward and said, hey, I did hear something. Or one of those people we see walking by would have come forward and be identified. No one did.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. At the end of the day, we know without doubt quite a few people walked right by the car, right behind the car, or right up against the car that morning after Ross got out. And we know nobody notified law enforcement that they heard or saw anything.
Yes, that's a good statement.
I want to talk to you just real briefly about one other matter. I believe you testified that we've got a video of Ross getting out of the car on the morning of June the 18th. And
That's correct.
That there was a timer yesterday on one of the videos we saw that appears that from the time he parked to the time the door was finally closed was about 30 seconds.
Yes, sir.
And we also had an opportunity to have video from the weeks preceding that, that being the month of June.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to call your attention to surveillance from June the 3rd. You see this, June 3rd, 2014. This was just 2 weeks earlier. Can you see from where you are, Detective, without having to get up?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see Ross's car in the picture?
Yes, I believe that is the defendant's car.
All right. What I want to do is call to your attention what we can see and how long it takes Ross to get out of the car on June the 3rd, 2 weeks earlier, when he parked at the office. Can you play that, please? Pause that. Okay. In this video, you agree, we can actually see Ross inside the car.
Yes.
The door is open.
Correct.
Okay. Can you see he's grabbing stuff and gathering stuff together?
Yeah, he's reaching to his right.
Okay. And you can see his arm grabbing something that's there in the front seat.
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead, please. Thank you. Now, you had another detective actually look at this footage and time, each and every time that Ross got out of the car in those weeks preceding June the 18th, right?
We did.
So you're aware that it took him 30 seconds to, once he parked, to get his stuff together, open the door, finish getting his stuff out, get out, and then close the door.
Yes, sir.
So I understand June the 18th, it took him 30 seconds. That's part of the case. I understand that. But you don't disagree that just weeks earlier, it also took him 30 seconds once he parked to get out, get his stuff out, and get the door closed.
No, but you do agree that on the 18th it took 30 seconds, correct? Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we saw that yesterday.
Okay. So it did take him 30 seconds from time to close the door. And I agree that it took him 30 seconds here to close the door.
Okay. Bottom line being, sometimes it takes us a little bit longer to get our stuff together and get out and get the door closed.
Most assuredly.
And within a 2-week span, we've got two days where Ross was at work, where it happened to take him 30 seconds.
Yes,
one
sir.
of those on June the 3rd and one on the 18th.
Yes, sir.
All right, I want to talk to you a little bit now about little aprons. I want to take a look at a couple of recordings from little aprons. My recollection is this is stage 312. If I'm wrong, no, I'm pretty sure that was the little aprons lobby videos. You had a chance to review these also, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, and what we've got is for the month of June, we've actually got video of the lobby, and we can see whoever's bringing Cooper in that morning, and what time it is,
You can?
and we can see if Cooper's awake or asleep.
Correct.
You had a chance to review those.
I did.
And we know from your testimony yesterday that there were 6 days in the month of June where Ross had taken Cooper off, 6 days that we had a video of it, right?
Yes, sir.
And that was June the 2nd, June the 4th, June the 10th, June the 11th, June the 13th, and June the 17th.
That sounds correct.
Okay. My recollection is yesterday we saw the video of Ross bringing Cooper in on June the 17th, and on that morning Cooper was awake, right?
June 17th, correct. He is awake that morning.
So what I want to do is ask you to take a look at the rest of the videos that we have, starting with June the 2nd. June the 2nd, 8:36. Go ahead. All right, thank you. And in that video, you would agree it certainly appears that Cooper is asleep.
I can't see his eyes, but it does appear.
If my math was correct from what you told us yesterday about the days he was asleep and awake, yesterday you agreed that on June the 2nd he was asleep.
Yeah, 4 times he came in. 4 out of 6 he came in. He had his head up against Dad, was either asleep or resting. I can't see what his eyes are doing, but yeah.
All right, let's take a look at June the 4th.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Arms and legs dangling. Looks like he was asleep when he brought him in on June the 4th.
Yes, sir.
Fair to say? All right, let's take a look at June the 10th. June the 10th, 8:42. We see Cooper walking in. Ross is bringing him in, and he's awake on that day, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Take a look at June the 11th. This is the next day. 3. Okay, thank you. On June the 11th, certainly appears to be asleep. Ross carried him in.
Yes, sir.
Okay. June the 13th, please. This is at 8:37 on the 13th. All right, thank you. And on that day, it also appears that Cooper is asleep and Ross brings him in. Is that fair to say?
Quite possible.
All right. Well, we saw June the 17th yesterday, and we know he was away. So we've now seen 6 days.
Mhm.
And you testified yesterday that Cooper was asleep 4 of those days that Ross brought him in.
Correct. Or apparently asleep 4 of the 6 days.
So yesterday you said he was asleep, and today he's apparently asleep.
I'm sorry, and I just need to,
Well, that's okay.
we bring it up a little bit.
I understand.
But apparently asleep.
You actually investigated this very specifically, whether or not Cooper was often or usually asleep or awake when he was brought in the morning.
That's correct.
And you interviewed a fellow who works in the front by the name of Terrell Dudley.
Correct.
And he was in a position to see what we just saw, which is when they come through that door.
Correct.
Okay. You would agree after your investigation, you learned that it's certainly not uncommon for.
Objection, hearsay.
I haven't asked what anybody said.
State the question.
You learned during your investigation it's certainly not uncommon for Cooper to be asleep in the morning.
Yes, that's based on hearsay. He's asking for people or it's from video. If he wants to call somebody to testify to that, fine, but
No, we can do it.
During your investigation, you learned that was the case. It wasn't uncommon at all for Cooper to be asleep when Ross brought him in.
That's correct.
And we know that, we heard some testimony yesterday about the distance from Ross's home to the Treehouse.
Yes.
Excuse me, Ross's home to Little Aprons. I believe you showed us that on the map.
Yes.
And did you ever drive that route?
No.
Okay, because you testified that it took about 15 or 20 minutes. Were you just ballparking it?
When you look it up on Google, so when I looked it up on a Sunday afternoon on Google, it said about 16 minutes. So we'll say 16 minutes just to keep it fair for all.
Well, we want to be fair.
Yeah.
All right, so even though you've not driven that route, you Googled it.
I did.
Certainly, Ross lives several miles away from Little Aprons.
Yes.
And that's a greater distance than from the Chick-fil-A to Little Aprons.
Yes.
But you also learned during your investigation that Ross did not, rarely, if ever, fed Cooper at home before he left home to take him to the daycare.
No, I did not.
Did not learn that?
No.
Did you, during your investigation, did you learn that he would eat breakfast typically at Little Aprons?
During the investigation, he would either eat at home or at Little Aprons. I don't remember anybody specifying how often.
Okay. I'll move on. I want to talk to you in a few minutes now about something that you testified to previously, and that was information about Ross planning a cruise
Correct.
Law&Crime on, please. 76? You testified yesterday about, I think, what you called a group chat on June the 9th. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, a group chat on June the 9th between Ross, let's say group chat, a group text between Ross and his wife and his brother and his sister-in-law.
I believe that was all four.
Okay, so I'm going to show you what has been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 76. And this is a part of the extraction report of his phone. See if you recognize that group chat that you testified about yesterday.
I believe so.
Okay, I'm going to move 76.
No objection.
In a minute.
Okay. And looking on there, what was the date and time of that group text that you testified to?
It starts at 6/9/2014 at 6:58:03 p.m.
Okay. June the 9th,
June the 9th.
2014.
Yes, sir.
And you agree that Ross initiates the group text by saying, "Oh, let's talk about a cruise. I want this to happen bad."
Correct.
Right. And then during the course of this, and it's a very short communication, his brother responds, "Okay." And then how does Ross respond?
So a friend of ours here in Atlanta is a travel agent. She can put together some stuff for us to compare if we want.
All right, and then what are the rest of his responses right there together on this subject?
Agreed, but I can see what kind of deals we can get.
And after that?
Okay. I think that's from Michael.
Okay. And how did Ross respond?
He doesn't.
Okay.
There's no response. So,
He says agreed, but I can see what kind of deals we can get. This is the last thing that Ross says.
agreed, but I can see what kind of deals we can get.
Okay. And so you talked about that yesterday. That was something you discovered during your investigation, that on June the 9th, Ross was texting with his family about this cruise.
Correct.
Then you learned that he'd actually done some what we call parsed searches, or some web searches on June the 9th as well regarding cruises. Remember that?
I don't remember, like I testified to yesterday, I don't remember what searches he did on the 9th specifically.
All right. Are you aware, though, in fact, that the same day as that text, Ross did some web searches for information regarding Carnival Cruise Lines?
I'm aware that some searches were made for cruises. I don't know what date.
You don't remember testifying yesterday that it was on June the 9th?
I remember testifying yesterday, I didn't recall.
Okay. And do you recall what device it was on?
No.
And you don't recall what the search terms were?
No.
I take it then that's just something that wasn't real significant to you, just wasn't real important. If Ross was maybe looking for a family cruise days before Cooper died.
That was 2 years before, and the other information that we get, like with the search for the Grand Suite Carnival Elation, were also important. Well, I don't recall the specific what he searched for on the 9th.
I were to show you the parsed search queries from June the 9th, I think that might refresh your recollection.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I told you it was disc 10 from the Lenovo, would that at least narrow it down for you?
Yes.
All right. I've just handed you a 2-page document that's marked as Defendant's Exhibit 77. Does that appear to be the search terms that were used on June the 9th?
I believe so.
I'll move 77.
No objection.
Admitted.
Can you read this?
It's awfully small.
It's very small.
Okay. The best you can, you could read, I guess, the first 4 searches that were done. I think that covers it.
All right. The first 4 search terms. Carnival Cruise Lines Kids. Carnival Cruise Lines Kids Policy. Do kids cruise free?
And the last one,
Carnival Elation Grand Suite.
okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. June the 9th.
Yes.
Parse search means this is something that he actually typed into a search engine, and the words that he was searching, the search terms were Carnival Cruise Lines Kids, Carnival Cruise Lines Kids Policy, Do Kids Cruise Free, and Carnival Elation Grand Suite. Is that fair to say?
Well, the Carnival Elation Grand Suite was on the 18th, but yes, those are the searches. So on the 9th, there's 3, and then there's no other searches on your form there until the 18th.
Okay.
The Carnival Elation.
Okay. We'll just talk about the 9th then.
Okay.
And when we say search terms,
Yes, sir.
okay, we're talking about actually typing in the words
Yes.
to a
I
search.
believe that's what an expert could say better, but from my understanding, a parse search is you actually type the words into the computer.
Carnival Cruise Lines Kids, Carnival Cruise Lines Kids Policy, and Do Kids Cruise Free.
Yes, sir.
All right. So you would agree, if that's how he was doing the search, he basically starts with nothing and types in specific words in order to get to the information that he's looking for.
I would agree to that.
And you would agree that's research.
Yes.
After the 9th, we know that Ross sent an email to a travel agent on June 17th.
Correct.
Okay, so this is 8 days later.
Yes, sir.
And he emailed a travel agent making a specific inquiry about a family cruise.
Yes.
Do you know what number that is, close?
608, 609,
This is the day before Cooper died,
Okay.
June the 17th. Your investigation uncovered that there was an email to a Heather Coyle, C-O-Y-L-E, 3:18 p.m., and it's labeled as State's Exhibit 608. I want you to read what Ross sent to the travel agent on the 17th.
On the 17th at 3:18 p.m., it was sent from Ross Harris, and that's Ross Harris 00 at Gmail, the same form I read yesterday, to Heather Coyle, Heather Coyle 76 at Yahoo. Heather, my family is looking to go on a cruise around mid-October. When I say family, I mean 9 people. That includes Leanna, Cooper, and I, as well as my brother and his kids, as well as my brother, his wife, and his 6 kids. Cooper is the only toddler, but I was hoping you could put a few things together to see what we're all looking at. Any ideas?
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Detective, you certainly would agree that planning a cruise in the future with your son is inconsistent with a plan to murder him the next day, wouldn't you?
The reason he sent that was after he was reminded from Amy about it. He hadn't contacted the travel agent to that point. All his activity on the 18th came from, on the 17th, came from after the first text message from Amy.
Amy, one of those people who he was texting with on the 9th, where he was talking about making plans, let's do this, let's do a cruise.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're hung up on the fact that apparently Amy emailed him first, and he responded, yeah, I've gotten with her, I'm waiting for her to get back.
I'm not hung up on the fact. It's just, the evidence. There was no searches, there was a searches on the 9th. And then there was a lull, and according to your form, nothing started up again until the 18th or 17th. And on that morning, that morning he got a text from Amy concerning the cruise.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of started the ball rolling again with the defendant sending the email to Heather Coyle.
Mm-hmm. And there's no way that Amy would have known whether he sent an email or not, right?
No.
Certainly possible he was just telling her, hey, yeah, I'm waiting to hear back from the agent, and then he sent an email to the travel agent real quickly after that.
I don't know what the defendant thought. This is what it was on.
That's right.
His records.
We don't know. So that's when I want to ask you very specifically about the objective evidence.
Okay.
The objective evidence is he sent an email on the 17th to a travel agent
He did.
specifically inquiring about a family cruise which included his son.
He did.
He sent that email.
He did.
Okay. And you would agree that objectively, if he was planning a cruise in the future with his son, that would be inconsistent with a plan to murder the boy the next day.
Judge, I'm going to object that that's speculative and argumentative here. He's asking him to make base conclusions based on the facts. He's asking for the objective evidence.
Sustain.
How long have you had that information about that email?
Since the dump of I don't remember exactly what it was looked at, viewed, but it's been a while.
Well over 2 years?
Possibly.
Okay. And according to this email, Ross contacted a travel agent the day before Cooper died, June the 17th.
Correct.
She responded to him the very next, well, I guess that night and the next day, the 18th. 17th and 18th. Is that fair to say?
Can I see?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yep, she responds that evening around 6:17, around 5:44. The defendant looks like he replies that evening 6:17 at 6:05, and then she comes back the morning of the 18th, 6:18 at 9:35 a.m. With the options.
Okay. So this is somebody who he's communicating with specifically about a cruise that would involve Cooper. Did you ever interview her?
No.
Did you have any other detective go interview?
No.
Did you look her up or research her in any way?
No.
You tracked down women that Ross communicated with before Cooper was even born, but you didn't contact a travel agent who he was communicating with on the 17th and the 18th,
That's correct.
because it didn't fit your theory.
Objection, argumentative.
Did it fit your theory?
I object, it's argumentative that he had a theory or what his theory was. It's vague as well.
He's done everything he could to try to push it out at every pause, Judge. I think it's fair on cross.
Judge, I'm going to object to the testifying now, Mr. Kilgore, about what this witness has done or not.
I agree with that, but you can't ask the question. So Mr. Kilgore's last comment is to be disregarded. The question can be presented to the witness, and the witness can answer the question before what's been stricken from the record.
Did you just not talk to the travel agent that he communicated with on the 17th and the 18th because it just didn't fit your theory?
No.
Testified yesterday a little bit about the fact there was a search for passport, child passport costs on the early morning of June the 18th.
Yes, sir.
Right. And do you remember testifying that Ross actually did a search at 12:48:15 in the morning for child passport cost?
I don't remember the time, but that sounds about right.
Okay. And this is a little bit before 1 o'clock in the morning
Correct.
on the 18th?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And he was also up sending messages to people, sending messages to women that morning as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And interspersed within all that, he actually searched for child passport cost.
Yes, sir.
To show you what's been admitted as Defense Exhibit 51. Let's see if you can recognize that part of the extraction report.
Yeah, it's a self, I don't know where it was printed from, but it is a Celebrate UFED report, which we've seen many times.
All right. If I could direct your attention to the second page where I've got the pink marker.
Yes.
Does that show you the extraction report where he was searching for child passport costs
Yes, sir.
at almost 1 o'clock in the morning on the morning of the 18th?
There's no time on this one,
Okay.
but, yeah, there's no time, but it does say, child passport costs, Google search.
Okay. And if you look on the front page, for the web history where it says passport fees, it'll give us the time that he actually got to the site.
(6/18/2014), 12:48 and 15 seconds.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to show you what's marked as Defense Exhibit 55. You recognize that as the screenshot you got off Ross's phone?
I believe so.
Okay. That's a screenshot of child passport fee
Yes, sir. Under, well, it's, yeah,
costs from the government website.
I believe so.
you certainly would agree that Ross's intention to go on a cruise with his son is consistent with him loving his son and wanting to spend time with him.
I don't know what his intent was.
Well, if we've just gone over the last 15 minutes evidence that he was communicating to plan a cruise, you would agree that if that's what he was doing, it shows his intention to go on a cruise, and that would be consistent with him loving and wanting to spend time with his son.
Judge, objection is to argumentary and speculation again as to what the defendant's intent was.
Sustained.
Well, let's do it this way. Objectively, the efforts that we saw for him to plan a cruise, the efforts that we saw, that's consistent with him loving and wanting to spend time with his son, right?
Judge, again, same objection.
It's argumentative.
I want to talk to you a little bit now about that video that we saw yesterday, the public service announcement. So let's go back to your interview with Ross on the 18th. I know you've got some books up there, Detective. Do you have the interview with you?
Yes, I do, sir.
All right.
Yeah, the transcript of the interview.
Yes, sir. Let me draw your attention to page 249.
Okay.
Ross told you that recently there was a vet on the internet who said, even if you got your windows rolled down, I'm going to show you how hot it can get in a car.
It's on page 250.
Okay? Is that what he said?
There was a vet on the internet, said even if you've got your windows rolled down, regardless, I'm going to show you how hot it can get in the car.
All right. And he shared that with you.
He did.
He told you he had seen that public service announcement video.
Yes, sir.
It's not something that you just found or discovered looking on his computer.
No.
In fact, him telling you that, you were able to go hunt for it and find it, right?
Yes, sir.
And he's telling you the truth. He had seen a vet on the internet who said those things.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we watched the public service announcement yesterday, and it was about 6 minutes long. Is that fair to say?
I believe so.
Okay. And it was Dr. Ernie Ward sitting in a car, and he had a thermometer with it.
He did.
And his thermometer was showing temperatures reaching 117 degrees.
Yes, sir.
Now, the first time that this came up during any testimony was all the way back on July the 3rd, 2014, at a preliminary hearing. And do you recall testifying that the way that was located was from a web search? Ross had done a web search.
Can I see my exact words on that?
Mm-hmm. leave my clip, yeah. My copy's well loved.
I can see that.
What I want to call your attention to, starting on the bottom of 59, you can read Mr. Boring's question through about line 5.
All right. You said to my five?
If you just read it to yourself. So you want to come up?
Yes, sir. Yep, web searches that you did.
We see if we got a second copy in there. So what your testimony was, you were specifically asked about this video,
Oh, was?
and you were asked, and I'm going to turn your attention to the video. You talk about these web searches that you did, or the examination you did to look at his web searches. Did you find a web search on his? Did you find a web search on his computer, the Lenovo, related to what he had described to you? And your response was?
I did.
You did.
I did.
Now, it's fair to say it's not exactly accurate, is it?
No. Since then, more information has come forward. A better look at the computer.
Okay. So you agree there was no web search that got him to that video?
I don't believe so.
In other words, he never Googled or typed any search terms for any video involving a vet or a hot car or anything like that, right?
Not that I could look at.
And in fact, you're aware that as part of the investigation, y'all have actually had an outside consultant look at this very issue.
Yes.
And is his name Jim Persinger?
Yes.
Okay. And did you meet with him?
Met with him once.
Okay. So everybody's in agreement at this point now, there was no search, was there?
No. Not that I can recall.
So what happened was, this video appeared on Ross's Reddit homepage, and he clicked it, which then took him to YouTube, which allowed the video to play.
I can't say that.
Okay. Well, are you aware if Jim Persinger has said that?
He has not said that to me.
Okay.
I have been made aware that the video appears to have come from Reddit. I would have to ask Mr. Persinger the exact path.
And what you've been able to review, you haven't found any related searches like that, such as how long it takes a child to die in a car, what temperature it needs to be for a child to die in a car, forgotten children in the car. You haven't found anything like that, have you?
No, sir.
So at the preliminary hearing back in July of 2014, do you recall? I'll just give you a copy.
Thank you.
you recall testifying that Ross viewed that video twice.
Yes. Do you remember what page that was?
61.
Thank you. Yes, twice.
We're talking about the Dr. Ernie Ward public service announcement, right?
Yes, sir.
And not to be too dramatic about it, but I mean, that was sworn testimony under oath.
It was.
In yesterday, you testified a little bit differently. You testified that you had no idea if you watched the full video one time or two times, right?
Correct.
And so I'm going to ask you again, have you had access or an opportunity to review your outside consultant's report, Mr. Jim Persinger?
No,
You have not.
I have not.
Have you had a chance to have a meeting with him since he completed his investigation?
No, I have not.
Okay. So the manner in which, the number of times that video was accessed on June the 13th, 2014, that's just something you can't testify about. You just don't know?
That's great. If you read it on the screen, it says it was accessed twice. We didn't know what that meant.
If you read what?
If you read the actual Google line or where you can find that video in the computer or on the report, it says two. So it was accessed twice. What that means, you're going to have to ask, a specialist. I'm just saying what I can see in front of me.
Okay. Well, let me just put this out there. If it says it was accessed twice, and those two access times are exactly 1 second apart, you would agree he could not have viewed that 5 or 6 minute video twice, could he?
I don't know what it says, sir.
We'll ask the expert on that. Going back to the interview with Ross regarding the public service announcement video with Dr. Ernie Ward, we read, I believe you said it was on page 250, what it was that Ross shared with you.
Correct.
About recently seeing the vet on the video.
Correct.
Okay. Now, you agree that Ross never said the words that he had recently researched through the internet child deaths inside vehicles and what temperature it needs to be for that to occur?
I agree.
Okay. He never said it.
No.
Okay. And you agree that the public service announcement video that we just saw, in fact, it doesn't in any way mention child deaths in vehicles, does it?
No, but he makes that jump or that connection.
All right, well, let's go back.
Because he says, if you're in, I'm like, that would be terrible if my son was in the car. And he says that right after talking about the video. So he makes the connection, putting his son in place of an animal inside that car.
Okay. You've not testified to that before, right? He makes that connection. It's the first time you testified to that?
I don't have all the transcripts in front of me. I'm just going to testify to it now.
All right, well, let's do this. Let's go with what is objective, which is
Yes.
which is what was actually said without making some sort of leap, okay?
Okay.
Page 250.
Yes, sir.
What Ross said was, just recently there was a vet on the internet who, said, even if you got your windows rolled down and regardless, I'm going to show you how hot it can get in a car, you think you can just leave your pets in a car and roll your window down, roll your windows down, right?
Correct.
That's what he said during your interview.
And it continues.
Hmm?
But
You're interviewing him about the death of his son, correct?
that's not what I said, sir. It continues. And you can't do that. And I watch that, and I'm like, that would be terrible if my son was in the car. So it's the same. It's the same paragraph. It's the same. Almost the same sentence.
All right. So
He makes that connection, and that's objective. That's what it says.
you're using the word connection. I want you to read out loud exactly the words you just read.
Okay. And windows down. You can't do that. And I watched that, and I'm like, that would be terrible if my son was in the car. I would hate that.
Okay. Those words you just read,
Yes, sir.
they're not the same as these words. He had recently researched through the internet child deaths inside vehicles and what temperature it needs to be for that to occur. Those are not the same words, are they?
No, sir.
Okay. And in fact, you just agreed, he never said those words during your interview, did he?
He did not say those specific words during the interview.
Okay. But you're aware that those words were sworn to.
Objection, hearsay. Will you approach, Judge?
Let me see, sir.
Let's see what's going to happen.
Was assigned to be your second detective behind you. You were the lead detective, right?
That is correct.
And the second detective was Detective Murphy, correct?
Detective Sean Murphy, correct?
Detective Sean Murphy.
Yes, sir.
And Detective Sean Murphy had an awful lot of responsibilities in this case, didn't he?
Yes.
Detective Murphy arrived with you on scene on June the 18th at 5:07, correct?
That sounds about right.
He was responsible for securing search warrant of Ross's residence and search warrant for computers, correct?
That is correct.
He was responsible for securing a search warrant of Ross's vehicle, phone, and electronic devices, correct?
That is correct.
Do you even know how many search warrants that Detective Sean Murphy was responsible for obtaining?
Not exactly, but it's over 20, I believe.
Okay. And part of the investigation that he was responsible for, he interviewed witnesses Leonard Madden and Artika Eastland. Is that correct?
I don't have my notes in front of me, but possibly.
Okay. Did he interview witness Edward Cockerham?
And once again, I don't have those notes in front of me,
Do you
but
want-
possibly.
All right, you've got some binders up there. Do you want to get your notes and take a look?
Yeah, if you want to wait for a few minutes, I'll start pulling those up.
If you're the lead detective, it's your case. You either know it or you don't.
Well, no, that's not right. As lead detective in the case, I'm responsible for everything to come into the case file.
That's right. You're responsible for everything.
That doesn't mean I have to memorize 144 discs, 20 search warrants, 20 court orders, and so on and so forth. That's why officers do supplements and detectives do supplements. And that's why I have notes. And if you want to wait, I'd be more than happy to look those up for you, sir.
I'm going to go through it, and if it's something you don't recall, you can just tell me you don't recall, and then tomorrow we'll go over the things that you recall, okay? After you've had a chance overnight. I don't want to keep these folks waiting.
Well, I don't think it'll take that long. I can just look it up right now.
If I were to give you the page number of your master.
That would help.
Okay. We'll start with page 82.
All right, do you have, my pages are not going to be in the same order as yours. So, interview Edward Cockerham, it does say Detective Murphy.
Okay. Interview Peyton Barlow.
Stand by. Detective Murphy did do a supplement.
Interview Anthony Pantano.
That was Detective Murphy, did the supplement.
June 24th, secured 9 search warrants.
Stand by. Yes, sir. Detective Murphy did do a supplement for Anthony Pantano.
June 27th, 4 additional search warrants.
Talking about 6/27,
That's right.
June 27th, sir?
That's right.
Okay, yes.
Additional search warrants for storage devices. The resident, Ross's cell phone. On the 27th, did a search warrant for medical records.
One at a time, sir, please.
Mhm.
Yes, on the 27th, list of 4 electronic devices and the search warrant numbers.
Okay.
5 devices, the residents and Kaiser Permanente medical records. Yeah, there's a supplement for that.
June 25th, executed warrant, search warrant on Ross's Home Depot personnel records. You assisted with that? June 25.
Yes, sir.
Did a preservation letter to AT&T.
What date are you looking at?
I don't have that date.
All right, I don't have preservation letter, Whisper, Evernote. Would not be out of character to do a preservation letter for AT&T. Sheriff's work phone, was it the work phone?
Not sure.
Then I'm sorry, I can't tell you.
Okay. June the 30th, did a execute a search warrant at the house. That's the one where they went looking for light bulbs.
Yes, sir.
Went with Tommy Knowles and Brad Shumpert.
sir.
I've got them all here.
Go ahead.
I've got them. Yeah. June the 20th, obtained search warrant court orders for Ross's phone and for Ross's wife's phone.
Oh, yes.
June the 19th, assisted you with the interview of Winston Milling.
Yes, sir.
June the 20th, assisted you with the interview of James Hall,
Yes, sir.
also known as Alex Hall. July the 3rd, retrieved medical records from Kaiser.
What date was that?
July 3, 2014. Same day as the preliminary hearing.
Preliminary hearing. Yes, that is true.
June the 30th, 2014, did a telephone interview with Jason Abdo.
Yes, sir.
June the 25th, did a telephone interview with Dale Hamilton.
Yeah, I don't see a supplement for that one, but
Okay. Showing it's on page 115 of your report. On July the 8th, did an interview of Ruben Elamin.
okay.
That sound right?
Stand by. Yes.
July the 8th, did a telephone interview of Takia Yarborough.
Yes.
July the 9th, did telephone interview of Artiki Eastland.
What was that last name?
Eastland.
Yes. The second phone interview?
Mhm.
Is that what you're talking about?
That's right.
Yes, sir.
July the 9th, interviewed Jane Meadows. Telephone interview.
Yes, sir.
July the 16th, interviewed Jose Guerra.
Yes, sir.
July the 16th, interviewed Regina Mallory. 17th, traveled to Madison, Georgia to interview Jay Meadows.
Yes, sir.
July the 8th, reviewed message chats from the MacBook Pro belonging to Ross's wife. See that?
Yes, sir.
July the 23rd, interview Andre Brown. See that?
I do.
And all things we're talking about here, these are things that were assigned to Detective Sean Murphy that he was responsible for that he did, correct?
That is correct, sir.
July the 31st, preservation letter to Whisper.
Yes, sir.
June the 25th, interview with Christian Likely.
What date is that again?
June 25.
Yes, sir.
June 25, interview Pramod Salayan.
Yes, sir.
June 25, interview Jelani Etienne.
Yes, sir.
August 1, preservation letter to Evernote.
Yes, sir.
June 25, interview Marshall Grant.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, the next 40 or 50 things that I've got, I'm just going to kind of summarize and see if you agree or don't agree here. Is it fair to say that over the next 2 years, Detective Sean Murphy was responsible for numerous court orders and search warrants?
Yes.
Y'all worked closely together, hand in hand in this case, didn't you?
We did.
He had access to the same things that you were looking at, the same reports and videos and whatnot.
We did.
Okay. Are your desks in the same area?
No. Well, at the time, our office has changed. He's on day watch now on evenings. I believe we're close to each other.
Okay. Now, in your crimes against persons area where you're located, or at least where you were back then, do you have the ability to apply for a search warrant over a screen, over an internet?
Yes,
Okay. Is there a designated certain area where that is done in your office?
and there is.
Okay. And is your desk in close proximity to that area?
Not now.
Was it at the time?
It was a few rows away.
June, July of 2014?
It was a few rows away.
Okay. Whatever was going on over there, anybody was applying for a search warrant over that screen, you were in proximity to where you could hear them and see them, couldn't you?
No, not at all.
Okay. All right.
Might be a good time for a break. Ladies and gentlemen, motion of pads of crime. You'll have a good break.
All rise for the jury, please. Please watch your step going down. That's right. Watch that step going down.
All right, over the break, I want to take up this issue of the defendant's presence at the viewing of the vehicle. And we'll do that first, so that's something that needs to be accomplished over the break. Mr. Kilgore.
Judge, I have a revised proposed order. I have copies that I'd like to provide not only the defense, they've already seen a first draft version. I'd like to get a draft version to the court too to take a look at. Thank you, Judge.
Let's have a break.
That was a brainer, that one. Fried fish too.
Usually we're done when
Fried
it's
chicken.
ready. Usually absolutely nothing is said.